Welcome into the very first edition of AFL Weekly, the road to Arena Bowl 33. I'm your host, Joshua Cox. We are so glad you're here, guys. I'm so excited. We are 5 days away from training camp starting, and we are a month away exactly from the very first AFL games being played in this version of the AFL. Super excited for that. We will be a month from today, our first edition of AFL Game Day in Nashville, Tennessee, as the Nashville Cats take on the Minnesota Myth. Big retro vibe at the Municipal Auditorium in downtown Nashville. Going to be exciting. If you're in Nashville, get your tickets. Going to be a great game. Also headlining game that night, Albany Firebirds and the Orlando Predators. They will play in Albany on the NFL Network following the NFL Draft that day. So super excited for that game too. That's going to be a big game. Big get for the AFL to be on the national stage right after the draft. I think it's going to bring great viewership over. So super excited for that, guys. We are almost there. Going to be a shorter show today. Next week, we're going to do the 16-team power rankings. We're going to give all the division predictions. We're going to break down all the teams. So excited for that. That's going to be fun. We're going to hit on a few things today, though. First off, the NFL Network was announced about a week or so ago. We reported on December 15th that Thursday night games would be on the NFL Network. I think a lot of people didn't believe me then, but it came to fruition. There's going to be Thursday night games on the NFL Network, and since then, they've added Sunday games to the NFL Network. There'll be 1 or 2 games on Sunday on the NFL Network. Super excited for that. The leaders, Orlando has 7 games, Albany 6, West Texas 5, and Philly 5. I think they've all earned that. Orlando and Albany, been around a long time, won at a high level, been around in different leagues. They've earned those games. West Texas is going to be a really good team. They've earned that. Philly, 5 games, Souls around 04 to 2019. Passionate fan base there. They're going to get that thing fired back up, and they're going to have 5 games on the AFL Network, or sorry, the NFL Network. So excited for that. I know some teams didn't get as many games as they would like to have got, but you got to earn them. And I think we'll see this season. I think winning earns more time on national television, and so we'll see how that goes this year. Big one that was added on, Rapid City originally did not have a game on the NFL Network. I think that was because of their own doing. They wanted to play Saturday night games because of their fan base, which only one Saturday night game is going to be on the NFL Network. But now they've moved one game to Sunday. They'll play the Billings Outlaws on a Sunday on the NFL Network. And so now every team will have be on the national stage, be on the NFL Network. I think they've done a great job on the schedule there, and so excited to watch these games on the NFL Network. I think the NFL Network has silenced a lot of the doubters we've had out there. There's been a lot of doubters, and I think this shuts everybody up as we move forward. So a few more things I wanted to hit on. I want to say one more thing on that. A lot of the other games will be streamed. They will have a streaming partner. So most of the other games will be streamed too. They'll be using local broadcast crews, which I think is a great decision. They do that for a lot of college basketball games. And so looks like most of the games will be on television. We'll get to watch most of the games. And so that's a great thing, and a great thing for the league. And super excited for that. We're going to hit a few more other things. A big thing that came out this week. Commissioner Lee Hutton was on TMZ, and he talked about reaching out to Johnny Football, the Texas A&M legend, won a Heisman Trophy at A&M, had his personal issues off the field that kind of derailed any chance in the NFL. But the commissioner said he reached out to Johnny Football to gauge his interest. I don't know if he heard back, but it kind of made headlines. Would the AFL want somebody like Johnny Football? I think it's great for the league, and that's my opinion. I think it brings a lot of publicity. I also think it gives guys a chance that haven't had or that's had issues off the field or also been kind of blackballed by the league. You can also look outside of Johnny Football. You can look at Cam Newton. You can look at Colin Kaepernick. You can look at those different players. And why would the AFL not give them a chance? I think if you look at especially teams that may not be at the top of the league this year, may be trying to build a fan base. If you're Rapid City in South Dakota, why would you not bring Johnny Football in? if you're trying to build that fan base. If you're some of these other teams, Southwest Kansas, if you're Wichita, if you're a team that's not been established for a long period of time, and you're trying to get the fan support and you're trying to build that fan base, I think it's a great thing. If I was Orlando, if I was Albany, if I was some team like that that's going to be at the top, I don't know if I'd do it, but I think it would be great for the league. I think it's great publicity. I think it gives people a chance that maybe he's got thrown under the bus, or maybe has been blackballed by other leagues. So I think a Johnny Football, a Cam Newton, Colin Kaepernick, and anybody else, I think it's great for the league. And I think Commissioner Hutton knew what he was doing when he went on TMC and said that, because I think that brings great publicity to the league. And I think that was what he was using TMC for. But also, like I said, as he tweeted out, I think he wants to give these players a chance too. And so it's kind of a two-way street. And I think it's great for the league. That's my opinion. But, yeah. Let's look at next the Philly Soul situation. Two teams that have had unique situations over the last months, the Philly Soul and the Georgia Force. Been a lot of doubt about these teams playing. Finally, the commissioner stepped in, and the league is going to be taking over the Philly Soul. If you have not heard that, the league is going to take over ownership as they find an owner for the Soul. I think they should have done that earlier, and I think Lee Hutton said that also, and on the podcast recently. They should have stepped in earlier, but it's hard. You got to let owners run their team. But Philly was just behind the eight ball in a lot of measures. They were so dead set on playing at the Wells Fargo Center, which I think is the best for them. I think it's the best for their fan base to be in Philly. It's hard because there's not a lot of other arenas in Philly, and so that's a difficult situation. And now they're going to be playing, since the league took them over, they're going to be playing at Cure Insurance Arena in Trenton, New Jersey. I think it's best it's good that they're having home games. A lot of people was wondering if it was going to be a traveling team. I think all along they were going to play home games somewhere. But they're not going to play as many home games as a lot of places in the league. They're going to play, I believe, 3 home games. It hasn't been set in stone yet, but I believe it's going to be 3 home games there in Trenton. We'll see how that goes. But I think it's good for the Soul to have home games. That's a passionate fan base. That's a fan base that's been around a long time. That's a franchise this league needs. And I'm glad the league stepped in, took that over, and the Philly Soul is going to play this year. So excited for that. Legacy team. In my opinion, all the legacy teams we can get in this league is good for the league. And so excited to see what happens there. I think they're going to have a decent team. So we'll see what happens there. I know Soul fans has been mad. Saw it and understand it. And I'm just glad the Soul's playing. Hopefully next year they could get to Wells Fargo Center in Philly. I think that's the best situation for them. But for this year, I think it's just best that we get it off the ground and we get it running and they play. And I think that's the same way as we segment into the Georgia Force. Their arena is still up in the air. They aren't going to play as many home games, maybe 2 or 3 home games. I know they were going to originally play at the convention center. I believe it was on the campus of Georgia State. I can't think of the name of it at the moment, but that's kind of up in the air right now. Not sure exactly where they're going to play at, but it looks like they will have at least 2 or 3 home games. Same as the Philly Solo, just not a full schedule. But that's another team that's been – they had an ownership change. They had an ownership group back out late, which was hard for the league. But they're going to be playing. They got a new coach. They're ready to go. And just glad they're up and playing because I think the Georgia Force, Philly Soul, legacy franchises, it's good for the league if those two play. There's been a lot of doubts with them, and just so glad that they're playing, and so glad they're going to get going. And hopefully we'll stabilize those situations as we head into 2025 and add at least 2 new teams. So that's another thing there. Let's segment to the Voodoo. The Voodoo are going to play probably the most regular season game, unless something changes, the most regular season games of any franchise in the league this year. Voodoo's going to play 7 regular season games at home. They were scheduled to even play an 8th game, which was going to be a preseason game. I believe that is in the works of getting canceled from what I'm hearing. So it looks like still though 10 regular season games. But it's going to be split. They're going to play 4 at Lake Charles Event Center and 3 at another resort casino, which is tied to it. So they're going to have the most home games in the league. That's going to be interesting. We're going to see how that goes. I believe that gives them a competitive advantage. I believe they're a decent team. I don't think they're a championship caliber team, but we'll see. They do have an advantage of having more home games. And so I think the other team that has close to that, I think Orlando has 6. And that may be the only one that I can think of off the top of my head. But definitely going to give the Voodoo an advantage. But glad, as with the Force and Soul, glad the Voodoo's back. Glad the Voodoo's playing. Just a big for the league to get these legacy franchises in here, in my opinion. I want all the legacy franchises I can get. And glad to see them back. So we'll see how things work out there. Let's talk about a little bit about the contenders. We're going to get into more details next week, but we're going to talk about the contenders and who I think is the contenders this year. I think the best team in the league is the Albany Firebirds, pretty much hands down. They're going to be our pick to win. They're going to be our pick to win the Arena Bowl. I think they got a lot of talent. There's not a lot of teams that's going to compete with them this year. I believe there's 3 other teams with them that have a shot. I talked to Damon Ware. Damon Ware is very confident. Their president, Jeff Levick's very confident with this team. And I think they're the team to beat. I think they're in a lot of people's crosshairs right now. A lot of people are tired of hearing about Albany and the expectations for Albany. And we'll see what happens. But they're the team to beat, no doubt. And I think there's only 3 teams left out that have a chance with them. I think the Desert Hawks have a chance. Chris Siegfried's returning to the sidelines. He's been away for 12 years. What a story. Coming back after 12 years away. Was the NAL commissioner the last 7 years. And now coming back to help out the AFL. Good to have him back in the league. Great dude. I've talked to him here recently. And excited for that Desert Hawks team. That's going to be a good team. And they will compete with Albany. They're going to play Albany in the regular season, I believe, at home. I believe that's in West Texas. So it's going to be a good game. And excited for that game. We're probably going to be there. I'm not going to announce the rest of the schedule yet, but that's probably a game that's circled that really want to get out to. So another team to think is going to be up there, the Orlando Predators. E.J. Burt, great dude. He's back. He's up there leading the franchise now. He's a former Predator player, former star defensive end. Excited for him to get the opportunity. I think they got great things going on there. I talked to Bobby Scipio. If you haven't listened to that interview, it's up on our YouTube channel. Bobby Scipio is going to be their offensive coordinator, former AFL star wide receiver. He played for the Desperados. He played for the Predators. He's an Orlando guy. So that's going to be a great team. They got a lot of talent. They got the NAL Defensive Player of the Year in Freddie Booth, and he's got a shot to win the Defensive Player of the Year here in the AFL. I also got Josh Jenkins in that secondary. Going to be a solid team. Very well ran franchise. Excited to watch the Orlando Predators play. I think the 4th team that has a shot at the Arena Bowl is the Billings Outlaws. You got to look at that coaching staff. Cedric Walker, former player in the AFL, and he brought out his teammate, really well known for the people that's been around the league a long time. Cedric Bonner, legendary AFL quarterback. What a coaching staff. Very well ran franchise. They brought in a lot of talent. Isaac Harker, quarterback. They brought in another veteran. Name slipping me at the moment. Going to be a great competition for that quarterback job. But Billings Outlaws are going to be very good. And I think in the West, I don't think they're going to have much competition there, in my opinion. No disrespect to any other teams in the West, but I think the Billings Outlaws will win the West easily. We'll see how they match up with Orlando, West Texas, Albany. But Billings Outlaws are going to be pretty good, and excited about watching them play. I think outside the top 4, I don't really see anybody else winning it right now. I truly don't. Had to have a dark horse kind of outside those top-tier teams, maybe the Nashville Cats, and we'll talk about them a little bit. I think they're turning into the model franchise. They've done a lot of good things. but I think it's going to be hard for a startup to win the Arena Bowl. But I think they're a dark horse. We'll see what happens, see how good they are. But Jeff Fisher in their front office, Greg Pogue, who's a national media icon, they put a lot of great things together. Eli Gold's going to be their announcer. Dean Kino's at head coach. A lot of great hires. They've put a lot of great things together there in Nashville. Just the model. I think they're going to be the model franchise, and they're going to be a team to watch out for in the coming years. Don't know if they can win it this year, but they're going to be competitive, and they're going to be in kind of the top of that second tier. But we'll get more into the rest of them next week on another episode of AFL Weekly. But we'll get into more of the breakdowns of the teams and everything. But that's kind of my contenders. I think everybody would say that. And, I'm going to be shocked probably if the Firebirds don't win the Arena Bowl, because that's going to be our pick. And but excited to see this play out. There's going to be a lot of good games. I think the established teams have a big advantage compared to the startup franchises. There's a lot of teams I believe that's going to be good, like Nashville and Minnesota. I think those are going to be great franchises, but I just don't know in year one if they're going to be good enough to compete at the top. So I'm going to stop myself there. We'll get into more about the teams next week. Starting out, I want to hit on a thing. Next week, starting Monday, we start our 16 teams and 16 days series. We've done previews with each team. We'll start out, I believe, with the Albany Firebirds. Coach Damon Ware come on to break down the Firebirds. And then the second day, I'll go ahead and say that too, we'll have the West Texas Desert Hawks. Coach Chris Siegfried come on to preview the Hawks. So kind of release the schedule after that later, but we're going to be talking to all six. We have talked to all 16, or nearly all 16 teams already. But we'll be releasing those the first 16 days in April 1st through the 16th. So excited for that. Had a lot of great conversations, a lot of great coaches in this league. Just great human beings overall, and just great people to talk to. Had a few assistants and a few players on too, and so we'll see them as they come out also. So super excited to get that released next week. We'll break down the teams next week, and appreciate everybody listening to this first episode of AFL Weekly. Excited for this season to get started. 1 month from today, AFL game day. So excited to get to Nashville. It's going to be a lot of fun and travel around the league and see a lot of great teams this year. I'm excited for year one in the AFL. Appreciate you all listening. This has been a special production of the Rebound Off the Net Network. This has been AFL Weekly, the road to Arena Bowl 33. We'll see you all next week. In the meantime, always remember, catch the rebound off the net.